Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /PettyRevenge, where people get little wins on others and the stories are so satisfying. And in today's episode, we've got quite the lineup. Karens are letting their kids run wild, smug idiots at class reunions, bosses denying raises, and one brother-sister rivalry that gets pretty gross. So yeah, sit back, relax, and guys, try not to shake your heads too hard at some of these stories. Let's dive in. When I was a much younger man, I worked as a shift manager at a McDonald's in the UK. One day, there was a youngish mother with 3 kids in the restaurant, probably ranging from ages 8 to 13. They were running riot, these kids, which was annoying but fine. It was only when they left that I realized the extent of things. The kids left a huge mess. The girl working the dining area comes up to me, looking a bit pissed off, and she said I might want to get someone to come cover her as this is gonna take a while. I went to take a look and I told her instead that I would take care of it as I felt really bad for her. The entire table was littered with food and empty boxes, which isn't a big deal. I never expected people to clear their tables. However, what the kids had also done was smear ketchup all over the seats and the wall. This wasn't accidental, as you could see their handprints where they had tried to write things in the sauce. I found they had also chewed their fries and then spit it out and then stuck it all to the underside of the table. The mother had just watched them do this and not said a word. But there, right in the middle of the table, amongst the empty sauce packets, half-eaten burgers, and shredded Happy Meal boxes, was a small purse and 4 cinema tickets. I just grabbed a garbage bag and I swept everything that was on the table into it. Food, trash, cinema tickets, everything. I then cleared a couple of more tables, and I added the contents of one of the waste bins in the kitchen, and then took it out the back door, subtly marking the specific bag so I know which one it was. About 45 minutes later, Mom and the kids come storming into the restaurant, and she's looking a little panicky. She explains what she's lost, to which I reply something along the lines of, "I'm terribly sorry. The table was just such a mess that there was no way that I'd have been able to spot any personal items amongst it." I cleared this area myself, so I can show you exactly which bag it was in. We were much quieter now, so I immediately sent the lobby girl on lunch, so there would be no way that she would be guilted into helping. The mom was seething with rage, and she told me that I should go through all the bags for her. I just refused, very bluntly telling her that it's not my problem. Knowing the movie started soon, I reminded her that she doesn't have much time to wait for someone else to do it, and then went back inside. I waited a while and then came back out. As she was digging through the trash with her hands covered in sauce and half-chewed food, I just said in the chirpiest voice I could, "I recommend in the future you not let your kids purposely make such a mess, ma'am." What a petty revenge that was, and seriously, OP got to do something that others can only daydream about. Like how some people can leave a mess to that extent and walk away baffles me. And we can all agree that karma hit her hard that day. And this comment says, "I've actually had people tell me to not bother cleaning up after my 14-month-old, who's discovered throwing things because it's the server's job." Like, no, it isn't. They didn't birth this mess-making gremlin. They went red. I think they noticed the look of what the F on my face. I absolutely hate leaving a mess behind. And the top comment of this post, obviously, says, "Mom learned a lesson that day. Karma will always catch up with you." This next post, OP deals with a crappy coworker. Listen to this one. Okay, so I had this one coworker who's one of the worst human beings I've ever met in real life. The guy was very misogynistic, calling all the women that work there girl, demanding they do things for him while the guy did absolutely nothing. On top of that, he was constantly flirting with all of them, regardless if they showed interest or not, and would also scream profanities in their face if they didn't fall in line. Management dragged their feet doing anything, despite the constant issues and the fact they were aware the quality of his work was terrible. Now, I'm not a woman, but many of my friends there were women, and when I saw him yell at someone, "Hey girl, go get me this right now," and then pitch a fit like a toddler when they refused, it really pissed me off. I heard he had no transportation and he was pressuring people to take him home. One night, he told me that he needed a ride home. It was midnight. Me, him, and the manager were the only people left at the end of the night. I told him I couldn't, but the guy wouldn't listen. He followed me to my car anyways. I got in, locked the doors, and the guy starts banging on my window like a psychopath, telling me, "You'd better effing take me home." Keep in mind, it was pitch black out in an empty parking lot with no security at midnight. The guy could have attacked me or jumped in and stole my car, and my odds of stopping him would have been slim. So I put the car in reverse, backed out, and then blew out of that lot. The manager left ahead of me, so he was left in that parking lot all alone. There is zero public transport and probably no Uber or Lyft either. The town I drive to for work is completely car dependent and so anti-public transport that sidewalks don't even exist. I didn't feel bad about it either. Your transportation is your problem. He's not a minor, he's 27 years old and a big boy who can figure out his business. You can believe that he never asked me for a ride again or effed with me. And here's the aftermath. It turns out the guy was indeed a crazy person. Not too long after that, a viral video of him came out showing him getting out of a coworker's car in a fit of road rage and getting into a fist fight with another driver. This happened right in the middle of a busy highway, with hundreds of cars swerving trying not to hit him. He was clearly identifiable and people in the comments were using his legal name. Apparently, that still wasn't enough to fire him. But the guy was fired. He finally ran his mouth at the female general manager. She screamed at him, "Get the F out of my business and don't come back." And she fired him on the spot. Believe me, that night I had some shots in celebration. Yeah, I love that the guy finally got fired in the end, but Opie's gotta work on leaving that job, because clearly management doesn't care is the vibe that I'm getting. And with the way the guy acted and road raged in the little update, I'm surprised he didn't beat up OP in the office the next day for driving off without him at midnight. And this person comments, "I used to carpool with the guy who liked to get into road rage arguments with other drivers. He did it one day with a van load of Samoan guys. And for anyone who doesn't know, Samoan guys are built like brick crap houses. They're big, solid blokes. It was all about to go crazy, but luckily, one of the guys in the van managed to calm the driver down and we all went our separate ways. I refused to carpool with this guy after that. And the thing is, he was most upset when I told him that if the Samoan guys had decided to get out and give him a much-needed ass-kicking, I'd have held their jackets for them. I worked in an office where they promoted a very new, unexperienced, unqualified suck-up from an entry-level guy to a team lead, one of 3 under the manager. There were roughly 30 people on the team. HR rules stated that he wasn't allowed to apply due to having been at the company for less than a year, and he had 0 leadership experience, all that stuff. Grievances were filed with HR and dropped, despite multiple fully qualified individuals with spotless records being in the running. The guy was known to be a suck-up, and he wasn't really liked prior to his promotion. After the promotion, he was wildly hated, which is quite entertaining how people will degrade themselves for the barest scraps of power. Anyways, middle management knew that he was hated by everyone, and they told him he had to find a way to get people to like him. Well, his solution was happy hours every month, which he said wasn't mandatory but hinted otherwise. You know how things go. For the first one, mostly everyone felt like they had to go, and they started figuring out how to fit it into their schedule. Some of these people had an hour drive each way, and they were finding babysitters for their kids. These people were terrified that they would lose their jobs if they missed drinking a few beers with the boss. Now, I should also note that the guys roped in everyone under the manager. I'm not even technically under this guy. I knew my rights and I declined the invite. He comes by my cube a few times the day of to try to pressure me into being there. I just said to him, dude, there's no way I'm spending my free time with the work people. You can either keep me on the clock or you can't ask me to be there. I know my rights. And here's the thing. I did like my team members well enough. I'd been to parties at their houses, all of that stuff. But I'm not going out with this team lead under any circumstances. The guy didn't like that and he walks away in a huff. The next day, everyone comes in and they're all pretending like they had fun, when it's very clear that they're just trying to get away from team lead's attempts at chumming with them. Around 10, we have a stand-up and he talks about how great it was to have everyone at the thing. And then he singles me out. He talks about how antisocial I am and how management notices when people aren't team players. He basically says to me, don't skip required events. To which I thought, LOL, okay dude. About 20 minutes later, I emailed the entire team. My email said, hey all, team member asked me about the required after-work events that are unpaid, so I figured I would share it with everyone. State statute blah 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 says that for hourly employees like us, we can't be required to go to these sorts of things without being on the clock. So if you can't find a babysitter and you can't make it, you don't need to worry at all. Now that email was totally friendly, totally non-confrontational, totally effective. Team lead sat by himself at the bar for the next 2 happy hours and he had to find another way to force people to like him. It's funny how people will do anything except not be an a-hole, right? Like common sense. People generally don't mind being around someone who isn't a pompous, insufferable a-hole. And speaking of insufferable a-hole bosses, this next OP gets the last laugh on their boss. They say, so I had a boss for 5 years and we'll call her Jane. I work with young children with disabilities. Some of the issues I had with Jane range from minor problems, such as never responding to emails, not providing basic necessities which our program's supposed to provide, to major issues, such as accusing me of breaking student iPads, repeatedly asking me to do illegal things, not responding to child abuse complaints, and laughing at me when I shared how concerned I was that she's making my staff cry on a weekly basis. And here's some of her favorite quotes. She would say stuff like, I pay you, so you do what I want. And if you don't like it, go work at Walmart, they're hiring. Or, that's why you're not the boss and be your own problem solver. In short, a complete and total a-hole. After 5 years, I couldn't take it anymore. My last day of work, my colleagues had a party for me and they all signed a card. My boss signed it and she wrote, not everyone's cut out for this level of responsibility. Good luck, Jane. So last week, imagine my reaction when I see her mugshot posted on social media. She was arrested for a DWI. So my petty revenge is I sent her a thinking of you greeting card. Inside, I wrote, I'm so sorry to hear about your arrest. Not everyone is cut out for this level of responsibility. Good luck. So my high school class recently had our 25th reunion. We hadn't managed to put together a reunion since our sparsely attended 5-year reunion. We went to a small college prep school. Our class had 72 kids where everyone knew each other. And because it was small, you could bounce between activities, so there weren't a lot of cliques. High school was mostly fine for my best friend John and I, except for one guy named Tom, who wasn't so much a bully as much as a general dick to the smarter kids in class. He constantly made jokes at our expense, and he would prank us with things, like creating a bunch of fake invites to a fake party at my parents' house or something, or starting a rumor that he had seen John kissing a girl who was a lesbian. That said, John founded a company in his late 20s, and he's done very, very well for himself. He's raised a lot of money for a local charity over the years, and recently, he spearheaded the construction of a STEM center to be jointly run by several area schools, including our high school. His name got put on the building. This has given him a pretty public profile and made him somewhat locally famous. And yes, his parents had some money, but he's far outpaced them. His company has a marketing assistant that's helped get his name in the news, including being featured by our high school's alumni newsletters and social media. They also manage his social media accounts because he gave up a few years ago due to time and professionalism. All of this has nothing to do with his ego. He's an awesome guy, but he knows that his company's profile and revenue has risen because of his personal profile. Now on to Tom. Tom has since college always been kind of a flashy, a self-promoting grifter / get-rich-quick kind of guy. Because of social media, I know that he first tried to be a white rapper and then a DJ in the early 2000s, and then he's bounced from car sales to real estate investing to mortgage stuff to some PE-sounding investment group, and now he's got some sort of crypto thing going on. Through the years, he's heavily promoted himself on social media, and he's even tried to do the whole pay me to teach you investments thing. He's even DM'd me several times with investment opportunities, to which I never responded. Fast forward to the reunion. John hosted a part of the reunion at his house, which is a barn, as he has several acres. There were about 50 alumni, plus spouses, and probably 20 kids that showed up. John and I, our spouses, and a few friends pretty much camped out on chairs on a side patio. We were all drinking and catching up. Mid-evening, Tom comes over to us to glad hand John. John stayed calm and exchanged general pleasantries, but quickly, Tom launches into some BS. He says to John, "You know, you've done really well, but you could make a lot more money in crypto." That's when John interrupted him with, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch who you're here with. Is your wife one of our classmates?" And you could tell that Tom was a bit taken back. He says, "No man, you don't remember me? I'm Tom so-and-so. We were classmates. Don't you remember I used to razz you?" John just scratches his head and he says, "Not really. I think I have a pretty good memory of our class, but I don't remember you at all." And then John got serious while giving a small wave to the event planner Ashley nearby. He says, "Listen, I get approached all the time like this because of my business. I get it, but this is my home and a private event." He then looks at Ashley and says, "Hey, can you take a moment to verify the guest list? I'm not sure what's going on here. Thanks." Ashley then addressed Tom while giving him a big fake smile and said, "Right this way, sir. We just need to verify your ID against the guest list. I'm sorry, I hope you understand." Tom, of course, follows her off in a bit of a huff. John sat back down while giving me a wink, and then he says to the group, "It's unfortunate, I have to be careful." That's when someone else piped up and said, "Yeah, that was Tom. He was in our class." John just kind of shrugged and said, I must not have interacted with him that much," and then changes the subject. 20 or so minutes later, Tom returns with a classmate who had largely organized the weekend and had been friends with him since high school. She says, "Hey, I hear you said you don't remember Tom. He was in our class for all 4 years. He played on the football team." John again just shrugged and he said, "I'm sorry. You know, sometimes people just fail to leave an impression on me. I hope you enjoy my home and have a lovely weekend." He then turns to his wife and then says, "Now, let's go check on the important people, shall we? We have to make sure the kids are having fun." John texted me a few minutes later saying, "That was petty, but fun." What a well-played petty revenge by John, and you know that Tom's night was probably ruined after that. Like, imagine having the nerve to try to go after someone who's more successful than you, the same person that you picked on for years, and trying to sell them on stupid little schemes. And listen, just like the last bosses, I think the only thing that Tom needs to invest in is a decent personality. Like, some people really need to learn humility. So my friend told me that I should post this here, so here I am. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my ex-fiancé of 7 years recently dumped me for a younger woman, a 21-year-old female, that he met on TikTok. To make a long story short, I had suspicions about his cheating since January this year. But every time I raised concerns, I would get hit with the good old, "Don't worry, babe, she's just my best friend." Well, turns out I was right, and the very same day we called our relationship off, he's posting on social media how much he loves his new girlfriend. Last week, he met her in real life for the first time, and he moved her like 6 states away into his dad's house. Keep in mind, we've been broken up exactly a month today. Anyways, we had a dog together named Rosie. The house we were living in together is also mine, so I decided to keep her here with me since I had more stability and she's best friends with my roommate's dogs. He agreed that Rosie would be better off with me, and he only asked that I send him pictures of her and keep him updated on how she's doing. I just said, sure, I'll email you some photos every few months. So every day since then, whenever I let Rosie out into the yard, I'll take pictures of her pooping to send to my ex. I've gotten all different angles, a couple of videos, the whole 9 yards. In a couple of months, he'll have an inbox full of our crapping dog to remind him of just exactly what I think about him. Edit. Thank you so much to everyone for asking how Rosie and I are doing. We're doing just fine. I think she's definitely sad that he's not around anymore, as they were best buddies after all. But she's surrounded by her pup friends and she gets belly rubs every day. As for my ex and the other woman, I can only assume she knew about our relationship. It's possible he lied to her and he said we were roommates or something, but I don't really care. Even if she was actively poaching him, my ex would have shut it down if he really loved me. End of story. He's told me everything I need to know with his actions, which are far more trustworthy than his words. All I know is I'm happier and I feel more fulfilled now than I have in years. I'm reconnecting with friends, spending time with loved ones, trying new things, and meeting new people. The best revenge I could ever have is being better off without him. This happened a few years ago when I was living in the dorms at college. If you've ever done laundry in a dorm, you already know. It's basically a gladiator arena with lint. The dryers were not cheap, so I always tried to be strategic and economical. I would set a timer and show up early so I could get my clothes out right when it's finished. One day, I came back a few minutes before my cycle was done, with my bag of snack-sized Doritos, feeling very responsible, only to find that my clothes had been pulled out and dumped onto a table, which was annoying, but it gets better. The table was covered in a puddle of soda, so now my almost dry clothes were damp, sticky, and smelled like Pepsi. I was furious, and not mildly inconvenienced furious, more like I paid for that dryer time and now I have to rewash everything furious. Now, I'm not a destructive person by nature, but I do believe in educational pettiness. I noticed the person's clothes were still in the dryer, so I added the full bag of snack-sized Doritos into their laundry load. I shut the door, set it to high heat, and I let the cycle continue. When that dryer finished, I happened to be hanging out in the lounge outside the laundry area. A girl comes out shrieking. She was angry, with a laundry basket full of orange-streaked, Dorito-smelling clothes. Now, was it mature? No. Did it restore the balance to the universe? Also, no. But did it make me feel better in that exact moment? Absolutely. So the moral of the story is don't touch other people's laundry, or you might end up smelling like Doritos. Listen, I love this post, guys, but I kind of have to disagree with OP. I do believe the balance of the universe was restored a little in that very moment, because I love it when self-entitled people get what's coming to them. And this person says, I used to be even more petty than that when people would do that. I would just crack open the dryer and leave. The way those particular dryers worked in my dorm is it would still count that as dryer time. So they would have sopping wet clothes and they would have to pay for more dryer time. And then I would set a timer and come back down one more time to specifically beat them to it so I could crack it open again. Always double tap. I'm a girl, and I also have a twin brother. I live with my dad, my brother, and my mom, so total 4 of us. And I kid you not, every single morning there's pee on the toilet seat. I've told my father how disgusting it is, plus that it can't be that hard to aim in the toilet and not outside of it. He scolded my brother, but the next day, the same thing. At this point, I grew tired of it, so anytime I saw pee in the toilet or on the toilet seat, I would quite literally call for him to get his butt over there and clean it himself. He'd just go on a rant saying, it's not me, which is BS. He would refuse to clean it himself, and then I would threaten to call our dad, and that's when he'd clean it up. I have to say that this does seem like nothing, but once I had friends over and my very close friend said there's pee all over the seat, which is what tipped me off the edge. I felt embarrassed and I knew that I'd somehow make him pay for that. Not only is it disgusting and unhygienic, it's the constant denial and lack of accountability that pisses me off. No pun intended. So I decided to take things into my own hands. Every time I cleaned up after him and used the bathroom, I would sprinkle water all over the seat and then leave. Sometimes, I'll even add yellow watercolor for fun. And soon enough, I noticed results. I made sure he doesn't notice that I was the last to go to the bathroom. And whenever he'd say or ask anything about it, I would just say, it's not me. And then my dad would walk in on the pee and he would yell at my brother. To which his "it's not me" card was in fact true this time. I thought the problem was solved, but 3 days ago, I still found pee. So I took it up a notch. Once his friends arrived, I knew it was time. I placed the evidence and I went to the living room where I asked him, bro, why didn't you wipe the seat after you peed all over it? It even got on the floor. Aim better. He then proceeds to pull out his "it's not me, seriously, it's gotta be dad" card on me. But I said, dude, I saw you leave the bathroom. It's okay, we all have weird habits, but you have to stop, for real. And to say he looked embarrassed is an understatement. His friends all made fun of him and gave him crap for doing that, which is way worse than what dad or I could have ever done. He later confronted me, and he genuinely told me it had to have been dad because really, it isn't me. It's funny to think this whole time he just assumed it was dad, so he didn't say anything because of it. I still didn't tell him and don't plan to do so. So far, he's been cleaning up his own mess, so mission hopefully accomplished. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/PettyRevenge. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's lineup. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled people episode, where Karens seem to think they own the entire ship. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.